Hello again, faithful viewers, and welcome once again to my underground domain, the video game bunker. You know, looking back on my life before the console wars, I sometimes notice things that prepared me for living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Learning tricks like hiding, finding cover, hoarding weapons, knowing your environment, and preventing others from getting the upper hand on you. I also learned that when you find something that works, you don't want to mess with it, and you also don't want to trust something that you've worked hard on to anybody other than yourself. To me, nowhere is this more evident than in the Twisted Metal series. Twisted Metal was released in 1995 for the original PlayStation, less than a year after the console's launch. The violence and mayhem in the game quickly helped cement the PlayStation as a more mature and adult gaming system. None of that kid stuff like turtle shells and banana peels. This game had heat-seeking missiles, tire spikes, and flaming ice cream cones. Flaming ice cream cones! This game was fucking awesome! Twisted Metal pretty much created the vehicular combat genre. While games like Mario Kart or Carmageddon have weapons in them, they're still essentially racing games. You can attack other players, but the objective of the game is to come in first place. But with Twisted Metal, the entire focus was blowing the ever-loving shit out of any motherfucker who got in your way. You didn't have to do any laps, and you didn't have to worry about coming in first place. You just had to be the last one alive. In addition to weapon pickups that you'd find scattered around the level, each car had its own special attack. In the first game, these were usually special projectiles like lasers or missiles. But they were unique to each character. Hammerheads was one of my favorites. I'm sure you can take a wild guess what his weapon was. Although, I will admit, a lot of the weapons are pretty shitty. Like Crimson Fury's laser. It has crap for range and no homing capabilities. It barely deals any damage, and to be honest, I think the noise it makes is annoying as hell. Seriously, who would design a laser that plays music when you use it? Now, with a fighting game, the story is probably the least important thing, and Twisted Metal would have been fun even without one. But the fact that the creators put a lot of care into crafting a very dark and creative story is what makes the game so memorable even today. The powerful wizard Calypso holds the Twisted Metal tournament every year, and whoever wins it is granted a single wish. Anything they could possibly want, regardless of price, size, or in some cases, even reality itself. This leads to some of the most enjoyable and gratifying endings I've ever seen in a fighting game. In the first game, these endings were just a single-screen text scroll, but believe it or not, they actually shot live-action segments for all of them. Why didn't they end up in the final version? Well...
And you, Black. I granted you more power than I gave any other demon, and you left. No! Black! Where are you going? No! What are you doing with Black?
Yeah, I would have gone with the text ones too. I guess Single Track just couldn't spend the budget to get decent actors, real sets, or even good makeup. I mean, look at Calypso. It looks like they grabbed a Carrot Top, lit his face on fire, and somebody put it out with a lawnmower. Actually, I might pay money to see that.
Sounds good to me, baby!
Like most Be Careful What You Wish For stories, Calypso can either be gracious or an asshole. And the first two games have a wide variety of different endings, which range from good to bad to just plain confusing. But this gave you enough replay value that you want to beat the game with all the characters just to see each of their unique endings. Despite mixed reviews that criticized the game's mighty graphics and short length, Twisted Metal was successful enough to give us the much superior Twisted Metal 2 a year later. Everything that made Twisted Metal great was there, but multiplied by 10. Better special attacks, new weapons, more playable characters, more unique cars, bigger levels, and even 2 levels from the first game, Suburbia and Rooftops. I'd compare it almost to the Terminator or Spider-Man movie series. The first Twisted Metal may be a classic, but Twisted Metal 2 is a fucking masterpiece. Unlike the first game, which had a range of attacks from awesome to shitty, everything in the second game is unique and useful enough that it never feels like you're stuck with a bad car. Well, unless you pick Grasshopper. Seriously, whose brilliant idea was it to give the car with the third lowest armor in the game a kamikaze attack? It doesn't even deal all that much damage, and it's useless against any car with an area of effect special like Outlaw or Axel. Although I suppose if there's one good thing you can say about her, she works as a gimmick character. Like Dan, if you can beat someone with Grasshopper, feel free to rub it in their face all night. But other than that, everyone has a pretty cool special attack. Roadkill shoots this boomerang that deals triple damage if it hits a target on the way back. Axel sends out a shockwave that hits everyone around him. Shadow releases the screaming soul that can travel through walls, and Mr. Slam, well, just take a look. Did I mention this game was fucking awesome? The biggest change to combat was the addition of advanced attacks. Special attacks that you could do even when you had no items in your inventory. Unlike other fighting games, these were universal to all cars, and anybody could do them. A few of them, like the Ice Blast and the Rear Attack, are explained in the book, probably because the freeze and rear missiles from the first game aren't here anymore. But then there were some others that you had to find out on your own. The first game was set in Los Angeles, but the second game is set all throughout the world, which means you could do awesome stuff like this. You could even set fire to the Louvre. But yeah, you can blow up the Eiffel Tower, which lets you access the rooftops. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, that's not nice. How would you like it if the French made a game where you get to blow up the Statue of Liberty? Well, you could do that too. And how about the Hollywood sign? Instead of the textual endings from the first game, they had this neat keyframed animation style, which really fits the new stylized look of the sequel. The seemingly stock photographs of the drivers were replaced with these awesome hand-drawn portraits, and the endings even got a boost in the storytelling department, expanding the dreams and wishes of the winners to more epic and creative places than before. Of course, no game is flawless. The controls can be a little wonky at times, and sometimes the physics can be downright insulting. But even today, the most important part, the gameplay, holds up incredibly well. And it's easily one of the top 5 PlayStation games in my collection. And thankfully, I'm not alone in thinking this. The game received critical acclaim from all of the top gaming magazines at the time, and it sold so well it was even re-released as part of the Greatest Hits collection. And what's this? An ad on the back of the instruction book? Twisted Metal 3? This game is gonna be fucking awesome! We waited for months, speculating what characters would be in it, who would be playable, would Yellow Jacket make his return? What kind of new cars would there be? The anticipation was killing us. But eventually, we finally got it. And then we played it. And then we heard it. And then we beat it. Where do I begin? Remember before when I compared Twisted Metal to Terminator or Spider-Man? The analogy doesn't stop there. Twisted Metal 3 sucks. Like Terminator 3 and Spider-Man 3, it was bigger, flashier, and jam-packed with features and weapons. But under that shiny exterior is an embarrassment to the previously adored entries in the series. And it's clear why. The original developers didn't have anything to do with this one. In 1997, Singletrack had a contract dispute with Sony, and development of the game was handed over to 989 Studios, their in-house developer. 989 built the whole game from the ground up, with new graphics, a new physics engine, new weapons, totally new levels, and quite a few new cars. But the problem was, they thought they could capture the essence of the first games without truly understanding it. They could not. It may bear the Twisted Metal name, but it doesn't look like it doesn't sound like it, and it certainly doesn't feel like it. Instead of the hand-drawn art style from the second game, they're now all done in full CG. Instead of the stylized Calypso, we have this lame Brian Crescente-looking motherfucker who doesn't even have a burnt face. Oh, come on! I know Calypso's design wasn't all that unique to begin with, but at least the Burns gave him something. Now the music, I'll admit it's pretty good. Rob Zombie and Pitch Shifter, which fit the setting well, I suppose, but it really just feels transparent. It literally feels like they were deliberately trying to make a game that would be popular rather than a game that would be good. And probably worst of all, Twisted Metal 3 was considered to be in canon with the previous 2 games, continuing stories and plots and utterly butchering them. What's that? Example? I am so glad you asked. In the first game, the police car Outlaw is driven by Sergeant Carl Roberts, who enters the competition to force Calypso to end the Twisted Metal contest if he wins. He wishes for a world without the contest. Calypso tricks him, sending him drifting endlessly into space. A little confusing, but overall a fairly relatable story. It shows Calypso to be an asshole, and it shows that the LAPD wants to end his reign of terror, trying to turn his own powers against it. The story arc continues in the sequel, where Outlaw is now driven by his sister Jamie. And when she wins this year, she demands to see her brother. Yeah, I'm sure you can see where this is going. But rather than being tricked twice, Jamie came prepared, and the 2 cops vow to enter the contest again next year. A little far-fetched, but still unexpected and very satisfying. So after 2 games of these two trying to stop Calypso's contest, crossing, double-crossing, betraying, getting revenge, we were excited as hell to see what would happen this year. Would they finally end Twisted Metal? Would they get revenge on Calypso for good? Or would Calypso trick them again? After 4 years of speculation, we finally got our answer. This is the ending that we had waited 2 entire games for.
So, Outlaw, your wish is for a clean, safe world for everyone to live in. Your wish is granted.
Do you have a penny, mister?
Too bad. The streets are safe, and you're out of a job. I am Calypso, and I thank you for playing Twisted Metal.
I hate you, 989 Studios! This ending is nothing more than a huge fuck you to anybody who loved the first games. And that's a perfect example of the series' decline. Instead of the dark humor from before, we have this bullshit half-fisted story and the stupid fucking stereotype about police officers. Cops eat donuts. And seriously, out of a job? Really? Police officers are smart, well-trained, physically fit people. Are you really saying that without crime, they wouldn't be able to find a job anywhere else? And sadly, Outlaw's ending is actually one of the better ones in the game. Let that sink in for a second. These endings are nothing but stupid stereotypes and lame puns.
You want my soul? Your wish is granted.
I actually have a hard time choosing the worst one because they're all so terrible. They wish for the stupidest things.
Damien, your wish is to have a barbecue with all your friends.
Really? You're entering a fucking tournament to the death. You traveled all around the world and killed hundreds of people to win that?
Thumper, so your wish is to forever hang with your homies?
See, it's funny because he's black, and black people say stuff like, hang with my homies, right?
So, Sweet Tooth, your wish is to eat all the candy and ice cream you want?
Don't you fucking drive an ice cream truck? Don't ice cream trucks usually have candy in them? I know Sweet Tooth is supposed to be insane, but come on, writers! Would it kill you to try a little? After Twisted Metal 3, I completely lost faith in the series. I actually prefer Spall Brawl to Twisted Metal 3, and that was a game meant for freaking 13-year-olds. Probably because it was developed by Incognito, which contained many of the original members of Singletrack. Despite the repackaging to appeal to a younger generation, it still has the same tight gameplay and clever dark humor as the first games. How is it possible that the endings in Twisted Metal 3 are more childish than the endings in the game where the characters themselves are children? It's been many years now, and Twisted Metal is still going strong. It's the longest running Sony exclusive franchise and continues to sell well, despite usually getting fairly mixed and mediocre reviews. I've heard Head On actually stays true to the series' roots, since it's developed by most of the original team, but until I can find a copy somewhere out there in the wastes, I won't be able to judge for myself. So until then, I'm going to stick with Twisted Metal 2, and not waste my time hoping for what could have been. You know, whatever happened to all the great franchises? Series that were always consistently good, like Indiana Jones. Star Wars.
My turtle is savage. My turtle, ravage. Ravage is ravage.
Batman?
Stay cool, bird boy.
Star Trek?
Row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Come on.
Final Fantasy. I think I need to sit down for a while. I'm Zero, and I'll see you on the next broadcast in the Video Game Bunker.